Hello YouTube, this is Mahadev. Looks like there's a problem with my computer. I might have to restart things, but it looks like nothing's happening here. If you can hear me, let me know. My computer is struggling. Yeah. Very annoying when computers don't do what I want them to do. All right, so I'm going to talk to you about my most recent shift into 5D. Okay, so and it was from them that I learned about the solar flash. I didn't even know such a thing existed. Of course, they don't call it a solar flash, they called it a series. I understand now, which is that there's actually going to be a different physical Earth, which we will call 5D. And but I do believe it will be more fifth dimensional like. Again, my computer. Start all over again. But I can't even see. I can't even see if. There it is. I still can't even see the chat. So I'm going to wait to see if you guys can hear me. Yeah, so I'm cutting in and out. Okay, we'll keep going. Yeah, I'm 10 seconds away of just shutting my computer down and starting up again. Yep, because it's not even moving. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So you guys are going to have to come back in a few minutes after I reboot my computer because it's just having too many issues. So I will be back in a little bit. Take this off and see what happens. All right, let's try this again if you guys are still there. We'll keep going. Okay, so let's start over again. All right, so what I'm going to talk to you about today is my most recent shift into 5D, and I'm going to tell you how that came about. I'm going to try and be as transparent as possible. And I'm going to tell you a very powerful visualization meditation that I was doing while this was happening. And you can give it a try and see what it does for you. So, yeah, I think there's some new people on here, so you may not know what my experience is. Let me be clear about something. I never talk about something I haven't personally experienced. if I do talk about things I haven't personally experienced, then I will tell you so. What I'm talking to you about today is what I have personally experienced. So this isn't up for grabs. This isn't, a negotiation. This isn't about what you think and what I think. I'm telling you my experience. Yours might be different, but this is my experience. So about a year ago, after making contact with higher dimensional beings, as you know, they showed me that there was going to be a worldwide event that was going to completely shift the consciousness of the planet. It was going to destroy religion and open people up to the reality of who they are and the universe that we live in. It was also going to be a watershed moment that would, for the first time in history, connect human beings directly to the interstellar, interdimensional civilizations out there, and we would become part of the rest of the conscious universe. We would come out of our bubble. And when I asked them what was going to cause this, I went back into meditation and I contacted them and I said, what is going to be this worldwide event? Is it going to be a fleet of spaceships? And they said, no, it's going to be a series of solar waves of love. That's the way they put it. A series of solar waves of love that is going to hit the earth and penetrate and shift all life up to another level. So that's all I knew for about a year. I've been talking about it ever since. Way back then, almost a year ago, they came to me one night and they said, tomorrow we're going to come get you and we're going to take you to what we are calling 5D. I don't know what they call it, but said we're going to take you there. And I thought that spaceships were going to show up and I was going to get inside a spaceship. I was I was ready to do it, but I was scared out of my mind. But that wasn't what happened. What happened is that I started being filled with this intensely blissful energy. Now I've done energy work my whole life, so I know when I'm having a Kundalini experience. And I could tell that I was having very high levels of Kundalini, and I could also tell that there was a huge amount of DMT that was being released into my brain. By the way, I strongly recommend that if you want to have a DMT experience, that what you should do is do these practices. Do not do external any kind of hallucinogen. It's very hard on the energy body, and you can't really trust the experiences. And most importantly, your body can naturally produce DMT. One of the things that will do it is interdimensional meditation. So just let me get that out of the way. So they came to me, and I started getting filled with this tremendously blissful higher dimensional energy, which, as I said, released Kundalini and DMT in my brain. And for a good part of that day, I was walking around really filled with an absolute bliss, feeling of total love and connection with everything, from the smallest grain of sand on the beach to the sun, the clouds, the people, the animals, the ocean. Everything was brighter, it sparkled, and I felt connected to everybody. It was just a really wonderful experience. It was very intense. I also found that I could dial it up or dial it down depending on what I focused on. And that was the most intense experience I've had. I've shared videos where I have seen that I am shifting. So there will be times I'm realizing now I'm coming in and out of what people want to call 5D, or at least approaching it. Perhaps it's even more intense than that, I don't know. What I do know now, based on what I'm being told and what I'm seeing, is that I get distracted when there's just random text thrown in there, so I'm covering it up so I don't see it and get distracted. What I'm coming to realize now, based on my interactions with them, is that there's actually going to be a second Earth that's going to be created in what we call 5D. And what will be happening, if it's not already happening, is what we see here in this picture, where Earth is going to split like a cell into two. And there's going to be a higher dimensional 5D type Earth. It probably will still be in 3D, but in a higher octave. And then there will be an even lower version of 3D. So the Earth that we have now is right smack dab in the middle. So it's not like some people are going to go to a higher, more blissful 5D type Earth, and then everybody else is going to stay here. No, it's you got to choose. It's going to be one or the other. And so I learned that. I didn't like that. As I said, that wasn't something that I personally felt a connection to, because I don't like the idea of people being left behind, all of that kind of stuff. And then came to understand that it's actually going to be as a result of our choice. So this is what we're going to be talking about today a little bit, is how to completely own that choice, because it will be a choice. When the energy that's hitting Earth gets to a certain crescendo, there will only be two choices. You will either, and it won't be like you're like, which one do I take? Your mindset will force you to choose. So you will either choose to be in a lower three-dimensional reality, or you will make the decision to go to a higher level. Now you might be asking, why wouldn't everybody just do that? I mean, if it's so blissful and wonderful. Because the more attached you are to 3D, the more frightening 5D is. So the thing that I've come to realize about human beings is that the thing that human beings fear the most in the third dimension is to be fully, completely, unconditionally loved. When that happens, you lose all sense of control, and that will make you very frightened. This is why people like to believe that ETs are evil. This is why people like to believe that ETs are demons. This is why religion works, because fear is a very good way to feel like you're in control. The fear of the unknown is battled with anger, victim mentality. Again, people will complain all the time about being a victim, about wanting to escape this prison planet. But if you give them the tools, many of them will argue with you and fight with you. This happens to me all the time. People will complain about being trapped, and I will give them a solution. And I will tell them the simplest thing you can do is take full responsibility. Whatever's going on in your life, just whether you realize it or not, just realize that you manifested it. You don't have to understand how, but if you can own that you manifested it, then you can manifest a way out. And people get very angry. They don't want to be told that they have any responsibility for their reality. It's because they feel out of control. There's a bunch of other things. I could go very deep into the psychology of it, but I'm not going to do that today. So, I've been struggling with this idea of two Earths, splitting apart, and one being a higher 5D and a lower 3D. I've been really struggling with this. I've been struggling with how does it happen, all of that. And it's been vexing. And I've had my own fear, and I've had to face my own fear and limitations and all of that. And yesterday, was it yesterday? It was yesterday or the day before. They all blur together. But I was doing interdimensional meditation, and that has morphed into something else, which I'll have to start talking about in different videos. But I was doing my interdimensional meditation, and some beings showed up. Now, I have to tell you, when these beings show up and they tell me who they are, it sounds just unbelievable when they say we are, and they'll tell me who they are. It's almost unbelievable. The New Age world has been talking about Council of 12, Council of 9, has been talking about the Arcturian Council, and what's another one? There's another council, I can't remember. The Pleiadian Council. This has been going on a lot in the New Age ufology channeling stuff, which I think the majority of it is nonsense. I'm not a channeler. I am not a psychic. I'm not a prophet. I'm just your average person who stumbled onto some meditative techniques that I've been doing, and lo and behold, it turns out that there are these beings, and they're nothing like what I thought. They're not what you've been shown in movies. They're not what ufology. I would recommend everybody stop following any ufology, UFO, LOGY. Stop following any UFO websites, YouTube channels, because it's conflated with a bunch of nonsense. And the biggest lie, which is a lie that is given to you by the deep state, is that aliens abduct and experiment on humans. Alien abductions do happen, but they're not done by extraterrestrials, they're done by humans. For another video. So these beings came to me, and I think they said they were the Pleiadian Council. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm making this up. I'm making stuff up. But, I listened, and I continued to interact with them, and they asked me what I wanted. I said, what would you like us to do for you? And I thought about it, and what I decided I wanted to know was I wanted to know how to shift into 5D. The way that you guys talk about it, me talking to them, the way that you higher dimensional beings talk about it, you make it pretty clear that this is a decision that we make. They've told me numerous times, you'll go to 5D when you decide to go. When you make the decision, then you'll go. And so I share that with you, and I encourage you to let go of any idea of something outside of you happening to you passively, like waiting around for the shift or waiting around for the solar flash or whatever. I'm not saying that there won't be a definitive day where something happens, but I definitely recommend that you don't wait around, because that is a passive mindset. And what I'm going to share with you in this video is the visualization that was coming to me about all of this. I'm hesitating because there are some things that have been said to me which I struggle with whether or not I should say it online, because I just don't know. I don't know if it's helpful. But what I will tell you is that these beings have been telling me, as they reveal the true understanding of what reality is. It's not anything like what we experience in 3D. 3D is literally just a projection onto a three-dimensional screen. It's Maya, it's illusion, it is a matrix. Use whatever word you want. But as they've been revealing the true nature of reality and other dimensions, they have also been telling me about who I am in higher dimensions, in previous lives, in other places. Because the other thing that we can know is that you're having this experience of being in this 3D screen, but your soul is actually in multiple dimensions. Very high, very powerful. You are a very powerful light being. At this moment, your human part of you isn't aware of that. That's part of the deal. So they've been telling me some very magnanimous things about who I am in other dimensions and other spheres. And it's been very challenging to accept. So what I've learned to do so that I don't go crazy, I'm dead serious about this. What I've learned to do so that I don't go crazy is that I take everything they tell me at face value. I accept it at face value. And then when I come back into my three-dimensional body, I don't try and figure it out. And I don't get emotionally or egotistically attached to it. I go, oh, that's interesting. I'm, fill in the blank with this amazing, totally unbelievable thing. That's great. And I allow it to penetrate into my psyche, and the end result is my life gets better, I get healthier, I have more self-esteem, I have more confidence, and all kinds of other good things. But apparently, there's other things going on. So I've been telling you in recent videos that if you are a human being, and you have incarnated into this human body, which is actually a very highly tuned tool for manifestation. Your body is a tool to manifest reality. If you have been given the opportunity to incarnate into one of these bodies, it means that you are an extremely powerful deity. Now, you don't know that. You look around at other people and you see them doing stupid, destructive things that look, really far from being a powerful deity. But everybody you meet, every human you meet is a very powerful deity who is down in this video game, playing with this avatar and learning. Now, for me, everybody's different. I think it's a waste for people to have this body and not make use of it. But the way to get the most out of this body is to do spiritual disciplines, to do meditation, to do energy work, and to then use all of the things inside of this human body to manifest your reality. Because either your reality will seemingly manifest at you. This is why people talk about your destiny finding you. This is why people ask God, please show me what my destiny is. What is God's will? These are very, very passive. And none of that uses this technology that you've been given. But energy practices, yoga, qigong, shamanism, these are very old practices that actually use the very precise biotechnology that you have, which is your kundalini, which is 5-dimensional energy of consciousness, your chakras, which are actually projectors of kundalini that project through the chakras to create reality. Your 3 dantians, which are the collection points of life force energy, which allow you to interact and manipulate life force energy. Your 5 organs are tools that you use to tap into the 5 elements. So, you were designed to be this magician, this wizard. Every single human being has this power because you have 5 organs, you have 3 dantians, you have at least 7 chakras, you have your nervous system, you have the energy points on your body, you have your spinal column. But if you don't do anything with them, it's like having this very high-powered manifestation technology that you simply didn't turn on. You didn't flip the switch. So the way if you want to manifest 5D and walk into it, the way to do that is you must first make use of this very highly sensitive, very highly crafted technology you have. That's why you need to treat your body right. It's not about being a good person or being sinful or bad. I recommend you stop all the alcohol, stop all the weed, stop all the caffeine, stop all of the nicotine, the heavy amounts of sugar, the deep fried fat balls you get at McDonald's or whatever it is. I'm not saying you need to be perfect. I'm not perfect, but if you don't do that, you won't be able. The technology here won't work. It'll get all gummed up and it won't work. And then you need to take responsibility for your emotional reality. You have to find ways to be able to fulfill yourself. You can't seek fulfillment in anything outside of you. Again, don't get me wrong, I just spent all morning surfing, which is, my greatest joy. So there are things that I do that give me joy, but I don't get my value based on anybody else. You know what I mean? So you have to do that as well. All right, so long story short, let me get to it. So I told you I would tell you how to visualize this. So I've been teaching you about, where is that? Being. So here you see this person there, and you see all of his chakras are lit up, and you can see the planets that are associated with each of his chakras. And what you need to understand about that, which I just learned, is that the chakras don't vibrate with the planets. It's not like you have your third eye is connected to Jupiter, right? That's the way we look at it, but that's a passive way of looking at it. Remember, your assumption is that you are an infinite, omnipotent deity who has chosen to manifest in the third dimension. So only humans have these 7 chakras in the third dimension on this planet. Only humans have this. And instead of imagining that our solar system was created and then humans were plopped down into it, and we have these chakras which aligns us to the planets so that we can, learn how to, whatever. It's the other way around. This entire solar system, including all of the stars in the zodiac that we can see, this is one unit. It's one unit that is held together. We might even say that the entire galaxy is one unit. Might even look at the galaxy as one being. But we'll just focus on this solar system for now. The solar system would disappear if humans didn't exist. I'll say it again. The solar system, the sun, Mercury, Venus, the moon, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, whatever other things that we may not have discovered yet. All of that, including the sun, all of that would disappear if there were no humans on this planet. The reason for that is because the third dimension, as I said, is a screen. It's a 3-dimensional screen. And if there was just one human on the planet who had all of this technology we call a human body, if there was one human on the planet, then the solar system would exist. Because the solar system is, all of the planets are a projection. They're 3-dimensional. So they're real. Like you could go, we can go touch the earth. We can land on the moon. They're real. But that's because they're part of the third dimension. You're part of the third dimension, so you interact with them, and to you they're real. But they are merely 3-dimensional projections that come from your chakras. The sun is a projection of your navel. Jupiter is a projection of your third eye. Mercury is a projection of your throat chakra. The moon and Saturn are connected, and they're both a projection of your heart. Mars is a projection of your root chakra. Venus is a projection of your sacral chakra. And so every single human is just on autopilot projecting these, creating this universe. Well, the solar system. This was a mind blower for me when I came to this realization. And I came to this realization that without humans, none of this would exist. So what that means is that there is a higher vibrational part of you that is in a higher dimension that is choosing to intend the existence of the solar system through your body. Your spirit, which lives in your body, is a higher dimensional light being. But it exists here, and it is the light in the projector. Your body is the projector. And as the light of your soul shines out through these chakras, then what appears on the three-dimensional screen is the solar system. So I'm not asking you to accept or believe this because it's not necessarily an easy thing to do, but it's a complete, you have to flip everything completely upside down. That you are not a being in this universe and things aren't happening to you. We're going to have to get rid of just about every single religion. There's a few that still work. The Vedic religions work. The Taoist religions work. Shamanism works. But all of the Abrahamic religions where God created you, those have to go. Because that's completely 100% flipped on its head false. It's totally the opposite of what's really going on. So with that understanding, then, there is no excuse, because every single thing in your reality is a projection from your soul through your chakras onto the third dimensional screen that you live in. Okay? So just assume that for a moment. So what that means in terms of my question, because I asked them, they asked me, what can we do for you? How can we help you? And I thought about it and I said, I need to know how this works. How do we create this 5D Earth? Because that's what I keep hearing, that we are going to create it. When enough human beings on the planet begin to vibrate on that level, then even if it's just 1%, let's just say 1%, when 1% of the human population begins to vibrate on that level of the new Earth, it will be manifested. We will do it. There are people who are saying, which I didn't believe before, but now I do, there are people out there saying that there will be people who can go back and forth, who can go to the higher 5D world and then come back to the 3D world. But people from the 3D world, if they've chosen to stay there, will be unable. They won't be able to go to 5D even if they want to. Of course, if they wanted to, they'd be able to go. So I was wondering how the heck this happens. So I asked them, I said, I need you to show me how I want to go there. I want to go there so that it's not just an idea, and I want to be able to share it with others, how this happens. And they didn't answer me when I gave them, here's what I want, and because I know whenever I ask them for something, it's never a demand, and they don't owe me anything, so I don't expect anything, I don't demand anything. But if they ask, do you want something, I'll tell them. And they've asked me, and I've asked for things, and they've said no before, for various reasons. So I don't remember them saying yes or no. They just said goodbye, thank you, and they left. And I quickly forgot about it. And then the next day, I started getting hit. It was even happening while I was doing a live stream. But I was getting hit with this incredibly powerful, blissful energy. And I could feel that DMT was being released throughout my whole body. I could feel that my Kundalini was going through all of the chakras. And I was starting to feel like I wasn't quite in my body. And the first thing that happens when I get this level of energy is, if I'm not paying attention, the first thing that happens is I will become anxious. So you may have found that during all of this solar activity that we're having, you might be having a lot of anxiety and fear. And if you focus on the anxiety, it's just like, when you do, ayahuasca or whatever, people say, hey man, if you focus on negativity, you're going to have a bad trip. But if you focus on like love, man, then it'll be really bitching. Well, it's the same with this, because it's the same thing. Your DMT is being released in your brain, so the same kind of thing goes on. You focus on the negative, you focus on the anxiety, and it's going to get worse. And then you're going to get angry, and then you're going to get fearful, and you could even cause yourself some problems. You could block up your meridians, and all kinds of things can happen if you fight it. So I've been doing this long enough to know that when I get hit with that level of energy, especially if the anxiety comes up, I've learned to breathe into it and then to mentally accept it. And I will say things like, I accept this energy, and I will repeat to myself the things that they have told me about myself. I am an interdimensional being of light. I am an omnipotent deity. I have chosen to come here. I'll start repeating these things to myself and other things that I'm not going to share with you today. I will repeat those things to myself, and then what will happen is the energy will begin to increase. So the one thing I've learned again is what exactly we've been told, which sounds, very basic, but I think is, cavalierly thrown out without any real understanding, is that what you focus on has everything to do with it. So I would focus on all of that. I would focus on other things like, every human being on the planet is an infinite divine being. Everybody on the planet is my family member. I am loved deeply by the universe. I repeat these kinds of things, and then it just gets more and more trippy, more and more intense. So I actually, after doing a live stream and it was hitting me, I had to stop and I had to go lie down and do interdimensional meditation, and I did. And I started doing all of those things, and it turned into this huge, unbelievable experience. And then I had to get up because I had stuff I had to do. So I got up, and I was still, high as hell from all of it. And I was, buzzing around. At one point, I went down to the beach, and the beach was like, if you had told me I was in 5D, I would have believed you, because it was just too perfect and wonderful and beautiful. And then I went and I was going through and doing my errands for the day. And I was still repeating all of that stuff, and I was repeating to myself that I, through my chakras, I project this whole world. So this whole world that I'm walking through, everything that I can see, this is 100% my projection. And I felt it. And there was this level of peace that I can't even describe. But even though, my brain could list all of the things that I should be worried about, I'm still having to, do things with my taxes, and I got to call this person, and I got to deal with that, and I got the rent, and I have visa problems. Even though I have a list of all those things, I just went, my mindset was, I can create anything I want. Nothing is a problem. There are no problems. They're all illusions. Everything is an illusion. And I have the ability to project my perfect reality. And so I am. And then I started, solving all of those problems, by simply saying to myself, this problem doesn't exist. That problem's been fixed, all of that. And every time that I focused on manifesting something positive, the level of bliss would increase, and the level of feeling like I was, in and out of this reality would increase. And I just did nothing. It just was a completely different state. So I can say that I was definitely in the 5D state, and at the very least, I have an idea of what it will be like for everybody. Because this is the second time now this has happened. Except this time, instead of just, experiencing it like a kid for the first time, this time I took active participation in it. And I kept using this picture that this was my body. My body was all of these different colored lights that were projecting onto the three-dimensional screen that I was walking around in. And I started focusing on everywhere I go, everybody I come in contact with, their energy is going to rise as well. So I started thinking about changing the vibration of every single person that I could see. And then I was using that to do that. And I have to say, some strange, interesting, positive interactions have happened as a result of that. One of the other things that's happened as a result is that, if I do that for a day and then I just kind of go back to normal the next day, everything just lines up. Like, everything lines up literally perfectly. I mean, the things in my day line up perfectly. And so I now have, from personal experience, realizing that if you are coming from a place of balance, if you are coming from a place of unconditional love, a place of unconditional acceptance, a place of non-judgment, a place of empowering yourself and empowering others, and you just simply stay focused on that, and even bring into it the visualization that when you walk around, you're like this guy right here. That those lights, which we call the chakras, are literally projecting onto reality exactly what you're able to focus on. Now, the caveat here is that if you focus on negative things, like if you are angry, if you have resentments, if you have victim mentality, if you are violent, aggressive, all of that, self-righteous, what ends up happening is that those chakras then start to become disaligned. So in this picture, this is like the perfect scenario, because the truth is nobody's chakras are aligned that perfectly. There's ways that you can, at least I understand that you can measure it, but if your chakra will be slightly to the left, slightly to the right, things will be slightly out of skew. And so by doing energy work, by doing mantra work, by doing self-examination, working with a counselor, a therapist, working to take responsibility for your emotions, and as I say, act with, act contrary to your negative feelings, act in alignment with what you know is to be true. These things start to line up the chakras again. And when they get lined up, then you're able to project the 5D reality. But if you're not aligned and you're not balanced, then what you're going to project will be chaotic, and you will experience it as though it's happening to you. There's a famous quote by Carl Jung. I don't know it verbatim, but it's something to the effect of, until you can understand and master the unconscious, everything will happen to you and you will think it is God's will. Meaning, if you can master your unconscious and you know what is in your unconscious, what your unconscious feelings and decisions are, then if you can know that, then you can remedy the situation. So it's really important to understand it's not about feeling perfect. It's about knowing what is the constructive, conscious, spiritual action that needs to be done, which includes your attitudes and your intentions. Notice I'm not saying feelings, because you can't control your feelings. This is where the law of attraction runs aground. Law of attraction assumes that you can control your feelings, and you can't. Your feelings are just reactions based on old things in your programming. Same thing with your thoughts. You have very little control over your thoughts. Your thoughts pop into your head because it's, again, a reaction to something deep in your unconscious. So the one thing that you do have control over is you have control over what you choose to focus on, what you choose to intend. So you can be filled with murderous hatred, but you can consciously intend, I want love and happiness for all of these people, including that person I want to destroy. I want love and happiness. I want that person to find their greatest happiness. I let go of any personal agenda. I'm not here to control anybody. These are the kinds of ways that you talk to yourself. And you focus, if you feel worthy and unlovable, you focus on, I am loved by the universe. I am a higher dimensional being of light. I love everybody unconditionally. You focus on these kinds of things. These are your intentions, your focuses. And then what ends up happening is then that starts to align your chakras again, and then boom, you get to create your reality. You get to project it. So please feel free to do CE5. If you're new to the channel, I'll write it down for you. CE5. Go Google it. Don't ask me what it is. Just Google it and do it. Or if you want to know my style of it, you can just go and get the free interdimensional guided meditations on this channel. You can go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong if you want to learn some of the other tactics that I use for my interdimensional meditation, which is, it does more. It's more than just interacting with higher dimensional beings. It's actually going into other dimensions and acting from your higher dimensional self. But start with the CE5 and do that. All right, so does that make sense? I'm sorry that our, the video wasn't working so good earlier, but do you understand that concept that, you see the pictures of the planets there, that those planets, if you imagine that guy sitting there in space and he is projecting through those lights, which we call chakras, and the result is that those big giant planets are projected onto the three-dimensional screen that we live in. And to understand that these beings, which are the planets, have chosen to come into existence to help you align with yourself. And before I take questions, I'll shut up with this. When I was meditating, it had to have been 20 or 30 years ago, but I remember doing the Mao Shan practices, which I teach you here in the Lightning Qigong. I was doing those practices and I was filled with a huge amount of energy. Again, DMT going through my brain, lots of energy going through my body. And I went into meditation and I found myself, just like this guy, floating in space. I was just out in space, floating in space. And then I found myself sort of just like a tiny little, if I were to see myself, tiny little ball of light just sort of floating around my body. And I was seeing this enormous version of my body out in space with all the stars and planets. And then I felt this intelligence come to me and it told me, when you look up in the sky, everything you see is inside of you. There's nothing outside of you. You have created everything. When you go into interdimensional meditation, you go deep within. That's why you can end up traveling through the solar system. A bunch of other things that are to this, which I'll have to talk about in later videos, but we'll leave it right there for now. So before I get into it, this channel is about giving you the tools to accomplish what you want. It's not about listening to me talk. If you just listen to me talk, you're probably not going to achieve a whole hell of a lot. What we do is we do the work. So the thing that I recommend every single person do is to go here to thunderwizard.com. I've spent 30 years of my life, 40 years of my life, studying, practicing, experimenting with, and synthesizing the most powerful spiritual practices on the planet. I have synthesized and created the most powerful energy practice in the history of the human race, and it's called the Lightning Qigong. So you can subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. Just press play, do the videos as I have them there. You don't have to think about it, just follow me on the video and do those exercises on a daily basis. There's multiple levels to it, and I guarantee you will shift, but you will be able to have the energy to flip on the switches of all these things. The Kundalini, the lightning center of the heart, which is the heart chakra, is most important. The chakras, the energy paths, all that stuff. You'll be able to flip on all the switches so that you can use your body as the very powerful piece of spiritual technology that it is. Courses.thunderwizard.com has all of my teachings, my video teachings, and all of my services, Vedic astrology services, rune readings, all those kinds of things you can find at courses.thunderwizard.com. Interdimensional Revolution is one of my books. I recommend that you get it. Go to michaelwilliamdenny.com. You'll see all of my books. I recommend Interdimensional Revolution. I recommend Extraterrestrials Are Coming to Earth. I recommend The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. That's the most important book. And I recommend Odin Says Jesus Was a Coward. These are all extremely important to help you understand, to shift your understanding and create new assumptions about your reality. When you have correct assumptions, your actions and your intentions will be correct. If you have an inaccurate assumption about your reality, you will have at best an incomplete ability to interact, or you might be just outright completely off base. All right, now I'm happy to just take some questions. If there are any, if you have a question, write the word question in all caps. If you have a feeling, go ahead and write the word feeling. Agent of the Universe says, honest feeling, I'm feeling blissed out all over my body. This has been more noticeable in the past couple of days. Let's see, so what I'm looking for here are the questions. So Marina Maten, you are new to the channel. I know because you said you are. But if you look above, you see one person says honest feeling in all caps, and at some point you'll see question. So when you have a question, I want to be able to see it. Normally what I do is I just scroll past anything in the chat that isn't a question or a feeling. So next time, do me a favor, write the word question in all caps and then write your question normally. Then I'll see it. I was lucky enough as I was scrolling past that I saw that you were trying to ask a question. So you say, sorry, I'm new to this channel, but may I know that will the 5D shift be a slow yet progressive shift? Or can it happen instantaneously without the need of any spiritual practices? So what's important here is you're asking, the real question you're asking me is, do I have to do any spiritual practices? Because you probably either don't want to or you don't feel like you can. So I'm not here to tell you, that, what has to happen. But, if somebody gave you a key so that you could open up a locked door, would you refuse it? So why do you not want to do the spiritual practices? Or are you even talking about yourself? Maybe you're talking simply because they've chosen to and they're able to focus on, the higher vibrational mindset. And so if you want me to just tell you you don't have to do anything, you'll be okay. I mean, I can't tell you that that isn't true. But if I'm doing my job, why would I co-sign you choosing not to do something that is guaranteed to help you in every single way. Doing spiritual practices, even if there wasn't a 5D, it makes you healthier, it makes you happier, it makes you more prosperous, it gives you fulfillment, it gives you better relationships. So why would you not do that? So in terms of whether it's a slow progressive shift or not, I can give you the information that I have right now, which I'm prepared to change, but this is my understanding. My understanding is that the 5D shift has begun. It began December 22nd of 2022. That was when the sun first started sending high levels of solar radiation that contained this higher level of intensity. And if you've noticed, things have gotten very interesting since then. A lot of things in the world have changed, and I can't speak for everybody, but a lot of people since that time have begun feeling a lot of intense energies in their body. Their visions have changed, their dreams have changed, those kinds of things. That's not everybody, but a lot of people. So the first part of your question is what people call the solar flash has begun. And as I said, it is a series of solar waves that are hitting the Earth. And each time the solar wave hits the Earth bumps up a tiny bit and will never go back down again. What I believe is going to happen is during this period, as things are progressing through these waves, is that people are going to start shifting in two directions. The people who are focused on narcissism and all the negative things, self-devaluation, self-hatred, narcissism, fear, victim mentality, anger, resentment, all of that. They are going to start seeking to go even to a deeper state of that, because as I said, the higher dimensional energy, what it does is it brings unconditional love, which is the most frightening thing for three-dimensional beings to experience. So if you're not choosing to go deeper into that love, you will choose to go the opposite direction. And then what I believe is going to happen, and I'm prepared to be wrong about this, but what I believe is going to happen is that at the end of these solar waves, there will be a culmination event that will be seen in the sky. I don't know exactly what, but it's going to be something that will be seen in the sky that everybody on Earth will be able to see. Most the people who are in the position to shift will come to realize that religion, it doesn't work, and that they will become aware of their spiritual essence. And then everything will never be the same after that. So just logically speaking, this isn't anything that's been given to me. But logically speaking, I would imagine after that event, then the two Earths will split. And as one person described it, it's like you've got a string, like imagine gum. You got gum and you're pulling it apart, and it stretches, and then finally it snaps, and you've got two pieces of gum instead of one. So these shifts, as they're hitting, they're starting to pull the two Earths apart, and there's like this thing holding them together. And I believe that final event will be so highly charged that the two Earths will come apart. And so, like I said, people who are wanting that will go to higher dimensions, and those that don't want it will go to the lower dimensions. But I want to address what I sense to be the fear in your question. I could be wrong, but it feels like there's some fear in there. And I want you instead to focus on, being ruthless about giving yourself what you want. And when people become ruthless about, I'm going to get myself what I want, no matter what it costs, they all of a sudden lose their fear. All of a sudden they become willing to tolerate and withstand feelings and circumstances they normally wouldn't. So if you focus on what you want for yourself, then you don't have to be asking these kinds of questions, or do I have to do spiritual practices? Because then you'll be like, so what can I do? What can I do to speed this up? What can I do to make this happen for me? And then the answer to that is spiritual practices, meditation, energy work, as well as all the other things associated with focusing on the positive and focusing on what you want to create. Owning it. Just create your perfect fantasy world. And I did that as well during that period, that day, again, about better part of a day. Second time around where I knew what was going on. I started imagining the perfect world that I lived in. And in fact, I started convincing myself, I'm there now, I'm there now. And more energy would come to me. Every time I would do that, more and more energy would come to me. Anyway, so this was before I went offline, and TT question: if the ETs are telling you that we are all gods, so you understand that every time you start a question with if, then, you are actually trying to shove something down my throat. So I haven't read it yet, but you're going to try and shove an assumption down my throat because there's something about what I've said that bothers you. So let's see what happens. If the ETs are telling you that we are all gods that create our universe, why listen to them about who you are in other dimensions? Can't manifest out own identities. So again, I can't read all the question, but I don't understand why you need to take this stance. I mean, your question is hostile. You're not asking me how to do something. You're not asking me to explain something. You're not asking me to solve a problem. You're basically saying that you don't like that ETs are telling me that you're a god. Why does that bother you? Why do you need to say, well, if they're telling you that, I mean, why do you listen to them about who you are in other dimensions? Can't you manifest your own identity? Do you hear just the whining and the complaining and the fear? So I can tell that you're frustrated about something. And this would be better explained in a question. You would say, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated that I can't just simply manifest my own identity here. Why do I have to listen to them? So I can tell you're frustrated about it. So there's really no answer to your question. Because even if I answer your question, you're not going to like it. You're already on the other side trying to argue with me about it. And I'm just telling you what they told me. They continue to tell me that. And the more that I accept it, this is what you don't know yet, because I imagine you haven't experienced it yet. In fact, it makes me wonder if you've done interdimensional meditation or CE5 at all, because that's the kind of question you're coming from, is coming from this arbitrary place of somebody who hasn't experienced it, and so and it bothers you for some reason. So you're throwing in all these ifs, thens, and whats and all of that. I can only tell you what my experience is and what they told me. And I can tell you that every time that I go into interdimensional meditation and I start to explore those things that they've told me about being this infinite divine, deity, that the energy is absolutely incredible and amazing. And when I come back into my body, I do struggle with it. Same kind of questions you do. I struggle with it. My human part of me really struggles with it. But if I, just as I said in the beginning, I've learned that I take everything they tell me at face value. I don't try and figure it out. When I come back into my body, I don't become emotionally attached. You are emotionally attached to the idea, which is why it's bothering you. So TT, my question to you is, what of the practices that I teach are you doing? Because I can't tell that you're doing anything from that. Do you have some kind of a counselor, a mentor? I can hear the anger, I can hear the frustration, I can hear the self-devaluation, I can hear that you feel like they're doing it to you. You know, why can't you just have this power now? I can feel all of that in your question. So it makes me want to ask you, are you doing the things that I recommend? 10 ways to guarantee your shift to 5D. Number 1, create a personal relationship with the power inside of the sun. Have you done that? Number 2, interdimensional meditation and CE5. Have you done that? Number 3, energy work and meditation. There's free energy work on this channel as well as the subscribed stuff, which is even better. Have you done that? Number 4, choose to trust the universe. In that question, I don't hear anything about you choosing to trust the universe. You want to argue with them. You want to ask, why listen to them about who you are in other dimensions? Can't you manifest out own identities, whatever you're trying to say with that? So there's clearly no trust. You don't trust them. Because if you did, and I told you if you go talk to them, they'll start telling you things, you go, oh cool, I'm going to go do that. Instead, you're arguing with me. You don't like it, which means you don't trust them. I'm not trying to talk you out of your feelings, but it's an action. Trust is an action. So you have to choose to trust the universe. Number 5, take fearless action towards your soul desire. Have you done that? Have you read my book or listened to me read it? The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. And are you taking the things that I put in that book and are you practicing those every day? These are all questions. These are yes or no questions. And you know whether or not you're doing it or not. Number 6, stop following mainstream media and news. Have you done that? Number 7, clean up your body. Are you still smoking weed? Are you smoking cigarettes? Are you drinking alcohol? I don't know. Relax into the solar vibrations that cause false anxiety. Have you experienced the anxiety that comes when we have these higher solar shifts? Maybe you haven't. Are you fighting with it? Does it make you anxious, or are you relaxing into it? Number 9, imagine your perfect reality in meditation. Have you done that? Are you doing that? I just got a big hit on that that's what's important. To focus on manifesting your perfect reality. But first you have to indulge in it and allow yourself to have a perfect fantasy. And, you know, again, perfect fantasy where everybody wins. So it can't just be a perfect fantasy where, you know, you're the ruthless Lord who takes slaves and, you know, kills babies or whatever. It has to be a fantasy where everybody wins. Number 10, see the perfection in every person. Are you doing that? Are you consciously going out into the world and everybody you run into, are you thinking to yourself, that person is a perfect being of light, and I'm going to look for those things within that person? So to go back to, these are both this question and the one before it. These are things that will guarantee your shift to the 5D. I'm going to put it up here, and if you want at some point, you know, pause it, take a screenshot, and then try and do all of those things or something from all of those things every day. You can make that something that you do. You don't want to do spiritual work? Great. Do this list every single day. At least one thing. What else? Okay, looking for the questions. Max's comment. Question, can I take my parents and my belongings with me to the higher earth? I don't know how old you are. So before I answer that question, tell me how old you are. And then I'll answer your question. All right. Do we have any other questions? I don't see any. So these are the 10 things you can do. I've also made a list of 5 things you can do. We haven't talked about the pineal gland. So I mentioned everything in the body. You have your chakras, which are actually the planets, which are higher dimensional beings that are here to help you align to your truest soul. So, when you're in higher dimensional states, you are this perfect, omnipotent soul being. And there are, there's little things in there that you could work on, but when you're in that higher dimensional, 5th dimensional perfect state, there's not enough pressure for those negative things to come out, because you're not in this false 3D reality where you think you're all alone and you think everybody's out to get you, because then when that starts to happen, then those little things start to crop to the surface. And so that's what you see when you see somebody who's really evil or really bad or really mean. What you're seeing is this perfect soul who has a slight little thing within them that they want to work on, and they put themselves in this pressure cooker called 3D life, and what's come to the surface is that one thing or those multiple things. So there's usually one big thing. So angry people, that's why they're so angry, they're so mean. And if they literally just kind of went the other direction and worked to improve that, which is all it is. I mean, you either choose to get honest and work on yourself, or you don't. You're a victim, you take things personally, you're fearful, and you act destructively. It's only 2 paths. You're either expanding into your highest awareness, or you're contracting into your fear and your negativity. Only 2 choices. So when you see somebody that you say, I don't see how that is a powerful light being, you're just seeing the 0.5% of that individual that's now coming out because he's in 3D. And so it's important that we have compassion, because that could be you. If you were born with his life, you might be worse than him. So we have to have compassion for everybody. So the pineal gland, we'll talk about that a little bit while I wait for people to answer my questions. The pineal gland is the other thing that I failed to mention. There are ways to stimulate the pineal gland, but some of them I've found are too rough. They can be damaging. The fastest way to stimulate the pineal gland is to do these exercises. If you really want the fast track to stimulate the pineal gland, do the Maoshan 5-element practices, which you can find on maoshan.thunderwizard.com. Maoshan.thunderwizard.com. Those practices are the fastest, most powerful way to start turning on the pineal gland. So the pineal gland is your transceiver. It is an antenna that allows you to get higher dimensional information, and it's also, it sends information out, so it does both. And when that is firing, that's when you're able to experience other dimensions, manifest things. So I forgot to say that. That's kind of like literally the crowning achievement of all of it, is getting that pineal gland going. Interdimensional meditation does that. CE5 will do that. Higher dimensional beings sometimes will come and, like they did me, touch you on the top of your head. They're doing that to stimulate your pineal gland so you can experience higher dimensional realities, higher dimensional energies. Okay, so Max's comment is not answering my question. So Max's comment, you're not going to need your belongings. I don't know if you can bring your belongings or not, but you're not going to need them. Can you take your parents? I mean, your parents are perfectly capable of making their own decisions. So they're going to choose whether or not they want to go. And that's their decision, not yours. So this, again, makes me think this is the question of a little kid. You're 10 years old, 15 years old, something like that. You got nothing to worry about. You'll be taken care of, and it's very likely that your parents will want to go with you. Okay? All right, nothing else. I guess that's it for me. Okay, guys, thanks for showing up. My apologies for things not going as smoothly as I was hoping. And as always, if I've done or said anything that's been hurtful or offensive in any way, please know that I'm just like you. And no matter what I do or say, my intentions are always to be as helpful as possible. And I love you so much, I don't care if you like what I've said or not. I don't need your approval to tell you what I think is most helpful for you. And so that's how I do things here. That's it. Again, all of the links are here. Make use of them. And I will see you guys all next time.